You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, episode 79. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 79 of the Tricorder Transmissions. Today we are covering the final episode of the original series, the final broadcast episode, that is Turnabout Intruder. We are your hosts, Jeff Hewlett.
And Craig Cohen. And fear not, this is not the end of the Tricorder Transmissions.
Craig flips the hand early. I thought maybe we'd drag it out for a few minutes, but we're gonna continue. Just a little heads up for everybody, though, we are going to be taking next weekend off of the show, so we will be dark on next Sunday. So don't look for us then. We apologize. Some things have come up, and we have some things to take care of in real life. So we'll be back the following Sunday with the first part of our season 3 wrap-up episodes.
Yeah, we have some big plans for our season 3 wrap-up, and then even a series wrap-up, and then also another little special treat that we will be including as well.
Oh yeah, looking forward to that special treat. We've had that in the works for quite a while, since the Vegas convention last year.
Yeah.
So that should be a real fun one. So keep your eyes open for that. Should be coming in a few short weeks from now. So,
yes.
You know, Craig, I have said in the past many times, I think, maybe not necessarily on the show, but I've talked about this episode with friends of mine, and I've referred to this episode quite a bit as one of my favorite season 3 episodes. And I'll get into more of that as we talk through it. But one of the things I like about this episode is the title, because you really don't hear the word turnabout that often, do you?
Yeah.
I mean, you hear like the old coin phrase, turnabout is fair play. But other than that, I mean, I don't really hear anybody using the word turnabout in conversation. So I was curious as to I know what turnabout is, but I was curious as to what the official definition was. So I looked it up, and the definition is a sudden and complete change or reversal of policy, opinion, or situation.
Oh.
So interesting definition. It kind of sort of fits the episode.
Yeah.
In a bit. But maybe we can get that word back into circulation. I know I'm going to try to use it more. Hopefully I'll weave it in at work. It'll make me sound more intelligent.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we do have not a lot of news, but one thing that I thought bears mentioning, because it does involve a TOS star.
Okay.
And that is Mr. Walter Koenig.
Oh.
Has signed on to be the co-writer and co-producer of a new Kickstarter. Well, not necessarily new. It's been on Kickstarter for a little while now, but I think it's almost over. A Kickstarter for the Captain Pike, Star Trek Captain Pike. And this new show that they're putting together is supposed to be the beginning of Captain Pike's career as captain of the Enterprise. So other people that are supposed to be signed on for this are some other Star Trek alums. You got Dwight Schultz, Linda Park, one of my friends, Robert Picardo. Love Robert Picardo, cool dude. Chase Masterson, and a couple of other ones. So, I haven't really read up on this Kickstarter much. Have you read much about it?
Not more than the fact that, they want to, flesh out Pike's story a little bit.
Yeah, and I think they were talking about maybe pitching it to a network to see if they could turn it into a real show if they make their Kickstarter goals.
Yeah, the problem is Captain Pike didn't end up captain during the the original 5-year mission for a reason.
True. Very true. And another shameless plug for Mark Cushman's These Are the Voyages, if you're interested in a lot of the backstory about that So pick up a copy of These Are the Voyages Volume 1. There's a lot of really great information about that in there. But not to downplay a potential Trek related Kickstarter, but one thing that really makes me scratch my head about all of these Kickstarters that we've seen for these different shows and things is that I don't know, maybe you have more insight into this, but how do they get all of these names to sign on to these things without having any funding up front?
I don't know. Maybe it's something as simple as, or maybe idealistic in my mind, but maybe it's the love that these actors have for the Star Trek sandbox.
Yeah, maybe because I know Koenig was involved in that Renegades project
Yeah,
a while back, so I know he's invested in Star Trek. So, maybe at some point in the near future we'll be able to talk to some people involved in the Captain Pike Kickstarter, and we'll get a little more info into how they got some of these big names
yeah.
involved in this. Very interesting story. One other thing that I caught a couple of days ago, and this kind of had me saying, I wonder exactly what this means. I don't know if you saw this, but it appears that Simon Pegg has made a comment about the upcoming Star Trek 3 being less Trekky.
Yeah.
So, I guess the studio is kind of enforcing something on there where I know they want to make more money than they made on the last movie. But that kind of has me a little bit concerned because I kind of felt like the former two J.J. Abrams Trek movies were kind of a little more removed from Trek. They had the characters and all, but they were more action oriented,
Yeah.
which I think separated them a little bit from what we usually see in Trek films.
Yeah, but the other thing for me is it's really funny because it makes you, at least that statement made me think, what is Trek?
Mm,
And it really can change depending on the viewer.
that's true.
And I was thinking about this when I was younger and in and you know and get and into Star Trek. I responded to certain aspects of it.
Hmm.
And then, as I got older, I started to, get attracted by other aspects of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it doesn't seem like it's ever been easy to clearly define what Star Trek is.
True.
So to say that you have to make it less Trek seems like you're setting yourself up for failure right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it, but you articulated it much better than I did. So I guess it remains to be seen what less Trekky is going to turn out to be.
Yeah, and the other problem, Jeff, is it's a part 3.
Right.
So right there, if you're looking to build upon the audience from the first 2 movies, short of rebooting,
Yeah.
all you're going to be doing is telling people we're continuing or we're giving you what you got in the last 2 movies.
Or they could take the Spider-Man approach and just add a villain for every sequel, so you have 3 villains.
Well, yeah,
Why not? Have
Yeah,
3
yeah.
alien races. Have the Klingons, have the Romulans, and have the Gorn. They're Star Trek 3. It's 3 because there's 3 villains. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the what I think Paramount should really be doing is embracing the idea that they have this franchise that is so flexible in what it can do.
True.
Not to make the comparison that we always make between Star Trek and Star Wars, but really, Star Trek allows so much more room for so many different genres. You could do a straight up dramatic Trek movie if you wanted to, you know. Whereas I think with Star Wars, you're always always expecting a lightsaber to get pulled out at some point.
Yeah, you're kind of hemmed in, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that should be really the exciting thing for Paramount, is being like, wow, we could even make a small scale
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek movie, not spend a lot of money, you know, maybe even make it Spock centric.
Sure. Yeah.
Spock on some kind of journey, some kind of Vulcan quest of some kind.
There you go.
I'm sure original series fans would eat that up. I know it just seems like there's so much potential there. It almost seems like the studio doesn't realize the tools they have in that toolbox.
That's true. I completely agree with you, and I think if you keep giving away all your good ideas, you're going to get Sherlocked on this one. So we'll move on to our coverage of Turnabout Intruder. Are you ready to get into this, the final TOS episode?
Yeah.
It's kind of an emotional moment, you know. I mean, I don't want to belabor because I know we've been talking a lot up to this point about we're getting close to the end, but now we're actually at the end. But congratulations to you, Craig, for sticking with this for this long. And I had no doubt that we'd actually finish it, but I'm really glad that we maintained the schedule as well as we did, and maintained and actually got better as we got through it. So.
Oh, totally. And congrats right back at you. It's been a great journey, and I look forward to the further adventures that we'll have here in Trek related podcasting.
Yes, I agree. And thank you to all of our listeners, especially our regular listeners who contribute a lot on our Facebook page and on Twitter. So it's great to have you guys along with us, and hopefully you'll be along for the ride after this and where we wind up going from here. So looking forward to it. Now, it sounds like we're wrapping up the episode. We haven't even started it yet, but just wanted to get some of that stuff out there in the intro, and I'm sure we'll repeat ourselves a little bit towards the end as well. So let's get into Turnabout Intruder.
All right.
Our air date was June 3rd, 1969. The remaster, August 2nd, 2008.
All right. And from the NBC press release issued February 26, we have: a scorned woman wreaks a strange vengeance on Captain Kirk when she manages an exchange of bodies with him and takes command of the Enterprise in Turnabout Intruder on NBC Television Network Star Trek Colorcast.
All right. We will get started with our final scene-specific commentary in 3, 2, 1.
So, Jeff, I had a little pause there while I was reading the press release, and I didn't read the date because this episode was actually preempted.
Yes.
It was supposed to air originally March 28th. So I didn't want to contradict the June date you had given.
Ah, okay. Well, the funny thing is I remember very vividly my uncle telling me a story about actually watching this when it was preempted. So he told me he had never seen this episode until syndication.
Yeah.
And he had seen them when they were originally airing. So I thought that was kind of cool that that story came back around and he actually remembered that.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant that he liked Trek so much that he remembered not being able to see the final episode. So this is actually the during the filming of this episode. It's pretty sad, but they got the news that the network was exercising its contractual right to cut the last 2 episodes of the season. So they cut down from 26 to 24 episodes, and they found that out while they were filming this episode. So they pretty much were told they were out of luck, and kind of put a pretty heavy air on the creation of this episode.
Yeah, and it's actually very interesting that the last episode filmed was the last episode aired, considering how jumbled their production schedule was.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So here we're getting some important, I guess, backstory between Kirk and Janice Lester. They had a romance, and she's very disgruntled at the fact that um, her limitations prevented her from ever being able to be a captain.
Yes, and one thing I found very cool about this, and this is for people who've not only watched the original series but watched the movies. But if you'll remember, well, a lot of the women that Kirk has run into during the original series here that he's had relationships with in the past, were never really that angry about it, right? I mean, they were kind of, they weren't always happy to see him, but none of them were plotting to murder him over it. But I think that it's interesting to see that when we see Star Trek 2 and we find out that Kirk actually had another past relationship, another deep past relationship where that actually bore a son. But she's not as angry with Kirk as Janice Lester is.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing you have to, and actually Lester, as Kirk even says it, I was young, um, and that could also explain the difference in attitude from Lester to the Wrath of Khan. What is it, Marcus?
Yeah, Carol Marcus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here I have a really pretty heavy question for you right here, right at the beginning of the episode.
Excellent.
So the premise here is that Dr. Lester and her team of explorers down there found the ruins of an ancient civilization, and amongst those ruins was a machine that was apparently built by some other civilization to transfer or to switch minds or personalities or memories or whatnot between two beings,
Hmm.
right? And she uses this to enact a plot where she's going to take over Captain Kirk's body and become captain of the Enterprise herself. So my question is, what was the purpose behind building that thing?
Well, who knows? It might have been there could have been several
Okay, go tell me.
practical purpose for it.
Okay,
It could have been something as sinister as elders of that civilization transferring their bodies into um, younger members of their society,
I
so
guess
they
so. I
so
can.
they so they could stay alive.
Yeah, I kind of thought about that, but I maybe that's a something that led to the destruction of this society. If that's something that they were really doing,
Yeah.
then maybe the young ones rose up. They didn't want to be used that way anymore and wiped out the whole civilization. But it makes me wonder, though. I mean, other than sinister reasons, what reason would you have to build something like that?
I don't know. Maybe just something is, being able to see the world through somebody else's eyes. It could have been an educational tool.
Maybe, maybe, possibly.
Mhm.
So
So here we get an
yeah.
indication that she really doesn't enjoy being a woman.
No, and I think there's going to be some talk later on that gives us a little expose into that as well, more towards the end of the episode. But so one thing that I thought was bears mentioning, and this is something that I remember reading about this episode in the These Are the Voyages book, was that during this episode, William Shatner, they're filming this episode, William Shatner had a really high fever.
Really?
And yeah, he was really, really sick. And, so sick that they had to reapply his makeup quite often because it kept melting off. And the scene that we just saw where he picks up Janice Lester and carries her and puts her down on the bed, he had to repeat that many, many times before getting it right. And, he's getting sicker and sicker and sicker as they're filming this. And I remember thinking to myself when I watched it, I was like, I felt so bad for him because it was to the point where he probably should have been hospitalized,
Yeah.
but he's got a hell of a work ethic.
Yeah, and there's actually really some physicality to that sequence too, where he really just drops the body
Hmm.
with little regard, because he knows, or she knows, um, that person's going to be dead soon.
Exactly. And it's kind of shows the disdain for not only for her former body, but for who now occupies it. So
Yes.
it's kind of like throwing, trash, onto the floor. He just kind of dumps the body there and then rips off the little scarf and is about to strangle Kirk to death or her to death before unfortunate timing for him that they came back. Now, here's another question for you. Haven't we heard in prior episodes when two people are too close together, they can't beam them up,
Yes.
but yet they beam them up and Kirk is holding Lester's body in his arms. So
Mhm.
a little bit of a contradiction there. But one thing I really love about this episode, and I'm sure I'm going to point this out many times as we watch this episode to me, and one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites in the third season is I love Shatner's acting in this episode. I think, and I've had some discussions with some people prior to the recording of this where they didn't feel the same way about it as I did,
Oh.
but I thought that the way he plays this, so he's playing Captain Kirk, but he's playing somebody else trying to be Captain Kirk,
Yeah.
and I think he
But
does a fantastic
yeah,
job at it.
even a moment just like that where he gently sort of went to go fix his hair.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many subtle movements throughout the episode that he makes um, that sort of feminize his performance.
And not only the feminizing parts, but there are other little clues and cues that he gives to that would make you raise an eyebrow if you were somebody that regularly works with him. So we saw him use the communicator to get back up to the ship, and he actually says Captain
Captain
Kirk to the
Kirk, yes.
Enterprise,
Yeah.
not Kirk to Enterprise or Kirk to Scotty, or when they call him later, he'll say Captain Kirk here instead of just Kirk here. So little tiny things like that. I little subtle changes in the way that he acts. I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing about this episode for me though is it I'm not going to say that it's hard for people to believe in terms of the crew, but in the course of the series, we've seen their bodies be occupied by aliens. We've seen an android Kirk. It shouldn't be that far fetched that there could have been a body swap.
No, yeah, and we've seen Kirk split into two Kirks.
Yeah, yeah.
For God's sake. I mean, what is the what are the odds that even the transporter could have done something like that by accident?
Yeah.
You would think that's a good idea for an episode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this particular sequence, I think, is really cool when we're getting some expose. Dr. Coleman is in on this whole thing. He's been in on the plot. And now, because he has helped to dispose of the rest of her exploration crew, and he's the only one left behind to assist in her plans to take Captain Kirk's body, that he's going to lord that over Coleman to keep him under control.
Yes.
And eventually he wants Coleman to kill off Janice Lester's body and Kirk along with it.
Yeah.
So,
and here's really where you'd think suspicions among the crew would really start to be raised. The way that Kirk handles McCoy is so out of character.
Absolutely.
And I know that McCoy wants to run tests on him. But it really should have been a huge red flag, even for Nurse Chapel.
Oh, for sure. Well, you could see Chapel is not exactly comfortable with the situation, but something that came to my mind as I was watching this earlier was, I mean, I realize that the captain has authority on the ship, but I'm not really sure how far his authority goes as far as superseding the doctor. I mean, can he really order the chief medical officer not to treat a patient on the ship? I don't know if his authority would extend that far.
Yeah.
And I'm also kind of disappointed a little bit in McCoy in this, because he starts out strong, but then he winds up giving in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something McCoy usually does. He
True.
usually sticks to his guns regardless. I mean, even if it is Kirk, and especially if it's Kirk, a lot of times he won't let Kirk tell him to do something that he ethically or morally, wouldn't do.
Yes.
So, and even he's protesting the fact that, the Dr. Lester shouldn't be sedated. It's not the right time for a sedative. She doesn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he allows Nurse Chapel to administer the sedative. So what exactly is McCoy afraid of at this point? Was he afraid he was going to get court-martialed?
Uh-huh.
I mean, would he care when it was the life of a patient?
Well, yeah, you think at that point the oath he took as a doctor would supersede any orders he had.
Mm.
And he'd probably have a pretty good case during a court-martial.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. So poor John. And, this is one thing I really like about this episode, too, is the tension.
Mm-hmm.
I love the tension because you, as a viewer, you know what's happening to Kirk. I mean, this is a great plot device. I love stories that are told this way, where the watcher or the reader, the audience knows something that characters on the show don't know, and you want to tell them, don't do that, or
Yeah.
And you want Kirk to get out of the situation, but he keeps getting trapped.
Yeah, and now we have a non-log log. This isn't a log. It's an internal monologue.
Right. Well, there is a log later.
Yeah.
In which, the Janice Lester in Kirk's body pretty much confesses to everything on a recording, but very, very strange. Now I can see the inner monologue part of this, kind of talking herself through what she's about to do, because she's about to get into a position where she actually has to be in command of the Enterprise. So she wants to reassure herself that, I'm good. Nobody suspects anything. I've pulled it off, and here I am, and I'm going to take my first seat in the captain's chair, and with a little smirk on my face. So this is what she's been after for years and years and years, right? And you see the look of satisfaction. More of the nonverbal acting from Shatner. I absolutely love it. That he's able to so effortlessly portray that he's somebody else pretending to be Kirk.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and unfortunately, one of the major things missing in this episode is Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah.
And Uhura, who, according to Cushman's book, had a singing engagement, which I guess superseded her work on Star Trek. Or at this point, it was decided the show's done. I'm going to take this singing gig instead.
Yeah, to hell with it, right?
But it's just really, I mean, we get an actress in the seat who we've seen on the series before, so it's not a complete random body there. But it still really is a shame that for the last episode of the series, we don't have her.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you know what? In her own defense, perhaps she was still banking on the fact that there would be 2 more episodes filmed.
Oh, maybe.
Because they cut those last 2 during the making of this, so maybe she felt that this wouldn't be the last one, and she would still have 2 more chances. But
yeah, you know what? I would like some kind of fan timeline created that makes the Bluey scene her last her last appearance on the series. So squeeze squeeze a whole bunch of the episodes in before this.
Question. This may be my poor memory, and I'm sure I'll get corrected on this by some of the fans, but has there ever been a man substituting for Uhura when she wasn't there?
I don't think so.
They always stick another female in there. So is that a job that's pretty much slated just for females? The communications officer position?
Yeah, maybe men aren't linguistically gifted enough.
Yeah, maybe. That's an interesting point. Maybe females in this time period have a more talent for languages than men do. I don't know. It's an interesting question, though. I mean, anybody out there who knows? I mean, I don't recall ever seeing a man in that seat. So, maybe there was, but.
But also that gets back to, and I think we've talked about this over the course of the series. There wasn't really a communications officer on Next Generation, was there?
I don't think there was.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't that seat on that bridge.
True.
Was that job eliminated at some point?
Kirk filing his nails?
Yeah. See, that's another indicator. But that's also there's some great subtle and non-subtle stuff going on here. Um, with Shatner's performance.
Oh, sure. And we're starting another sequence here in the captain's quarters where this is a fantastic exchange because we know that Kirk would never act like this. There's almost this air of smugness about him at this point. A lot of smirks, eye rolls, and very very odd behavior. And I know McCoy does pick up on it.
Yeah.
Of course. But something that I thought about a lot when I was watching this episode is that Lester I can't understand how Lester wouldn't think that she was going to get found out at some point because
Yes.
You may be able to dupe the crew into believing that you're Kirk for the short term. I mean, you may be able to throw out a few orders, go to this star base or, proceed to this planet, warp to whatnot. But, as soon as you wind up in a crisis situation that you need Kirk to get out of, it's done. The gig is up, right? It doesn't. And what happens when they meet some green chick? They would all expect Kirk to go for her, but, she wouldn't. I mean, it would be a totally different Kirk. So the space swagger would be gone. I don't know. I kept thinking to myself, how long, even if the mutiny stuff never happened and she was able to get away with it for a little while, how long would she actually be able to pull that off? A week?
Yeah, but at what point would it stop mattering? Because if everything went to plan, Lester's body would be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk's essence would be gone.
Yep.
So then what do you do? I mean, how do you there's no way to prove short of the Vulcan mind meld, which we'll get later, which isn't definitive proof.
No.
But I mean, what do? You strip him of his strip him of being captain for being incompetent, or
yeah, he would probably wind up losing his command at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think just because you're in the body of Captain Kirk doesn't give you Kirk's experience, right? So
Oh yeah.
She wouldn't know what to do in the first moment of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would, and it wouldn't take much. I mean, even if they were lucky enough to escape some sort of a crisis without the ship blowing up and everybody dying, I think it would quickly fall apart on her, and she would wind up losing her command at some point.
Yeah. And now here is, I don't know if it's the writing this episode or the performance or a combination of it, but I really don't buy that this is Kirk here.
Really?
For me, it doesn't work. And I don't know if it's just so hard to capture a lot of the things that William Shatner brought to that role.
True.
Physically. But I don't know. The voice just doesn't seem right to me as well. Maybe I'm off here. Maybe I'm being blinded by the visuals.
Perhaps. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, though. I mean, you're definitely onto something. But I kind of, I guess, in my own mind, I excuse it by, as discomfort, I guess, with being in a different body and being disoriented and not knowing what's going on. And
oh, sure, and Sandra Smith had the much more difficult role here, because if you think about it, not to take anything away from Shatner's performance, but he was playing somebody that didn't have 78 prior episodes of experience for us to draw from as viewers, whereas here Sandra Smith is being expected to create this character that everybody knows.
Yeah, and you wonder how many episodes she watched, or did she go to school and watch a few episodes to get figure out who she was trying to be, or did she kind of go in cold?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, based on the times, it was probably just easier for her to go in cold.
Hmm.
Um, I do think that this is a very Kirk-like moment here. The whole plan that he creates here to with the the glass or the liquid and this whole plan. So I mean, there are Kirk moments here. I'm just not sure if it was executed well. Um, and this episode was written. It was a Gene Roddenberry story,
Mm-hmm.
but it was written by the season 3 story consultant Arthur Singer, who a lot of people hold the opinion that he never really got Trek.
Huh.
um,
Interesting.
and I guess we had mentioned Sandra Smith already. I might as well finish up with her.
Sure.
She was a regular. We have another soap opera star here. Prior to Star Trek, for 3 years, she was on The Guiding Light.
Hmm.
And then she was also on The Wild Wild West. And she did a season on a medical show called The Interns.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And now we get some much needed Spock here. For me, it feels like up until this scene, Spock was really not that present.
No, but he's going to be a lot more present from here on out, which is good. So you get a lot of Spock time in the last episode of Trek. And one thing I had written down that I wanted to quickly throw out there from an earlier scene was that we've established that there's still a Surgeon General's office during Star Trek times, which I thought was pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah, I love that reference.
And and also McCoy quotes some Starfleet regulations, and he can in fact trump Captain Kirk in certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So he can order the captain to submit to a medical test if he feels that he's something wrong with him or he's had a lapse in judgment. So it's cool to know there's some checks and balances going on the Enterprise, and it's not a dictatorship.
Yeah.
So there is some due process going on here. So Kirk reporting for his examination. So pretty cool.
And how did Kirk know to go there?
That's a good question. Well, I think he was looking for Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, but and this is a total un-Kirk moment here.
Oh, absolutely. He just totally flipped his cards right there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
An unarmed or non-threatening person.
Yeah.
Who just, karate chopped it.
Yeah, the old karate chop knockout.
Dismissed, I mean.
Yeah. I love the stare down McCoy is giving him right now.
Yeah. And then also it's really interesting just to watch Spock walk away from it.
Yeah, I think Spock was more concerned with the condition of Lester.
Yeah. Oh my God. And right here, this is one of my all-time favorite Spock moments.
This is phenomenal.
This is like Jedi mind trick stuff before Jedi mind trick.
Absolutely. And
just
he doesn't
using logic to totally play this red shirt.
I was wondering, is the red shirt just a dunce? I mean, or is Spock that good?
I think it's Spock's that good. Here we got a call back. We've seen this kind of physical exam before.
Yeah, I think didn't they do this in the Corbomite maneuver? Wasn't that?
I believe so. Yeah, we're going back to the first season.
Great stuff.
Yeah. And why does McCoy tell him to keep his shirt off here?
That's a good question. I really don't know.
There's no reason for it, unless the only thing you can wonder is if McCoy had some kind of inkling at this point and he wanted to maybe make Lester feel off balance by being semi-naked. But there's no indication that that's where McCoy's head is.
Yeah, I'm not really sure at this point. I didn't really think much about that until you just said it. So
yeah, unless somebody was like, "Hey, you know what? We haven't had enough shirtless Captain Kirk on the series.
Yeah, let's get some shirtless Kirk going on here." That's great. So now this is really interesting because this is a different kind of a test than we've ever seen before. So it appears that they have the capability technologically to map your emotional response.
Yeah.
To these certain color wavelengths, and then they can do it again later and compare the two to see if you've changed emotionally.
Yeah, very neat.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess they use that to test your mental health if you kind of start to go south, or there's some major changes in the way you're acting or presenting yourself or conducting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And at first I wasn't sure if this was just um, McCoy again sort of bluffing, with the idea that maybe Kirk wasn't Kirk, and administering this test that he's never taken,
Hmm.
as a way to
Oh,
see how he reacts.
it's a good question.
Because what if Kirk had never taken this test before, and then boom, McCoy says, "Well, that's weird."
Hmm.
But none of that matters because that's not the way the story went.
No.
And this whole sequence here between Spock and Kirk, everybody's probably yelling at the screen, mind meld, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing that I really love about this, and this is something that never seems to happen on any other Trek episode, and it's finally happening here, is Kirk is directly referencing
Yeah.
past episodes. So we get a reference about the Tholian web and how Spock saved him there, and he also references the Vions from the empath who wanted to kill McCoy and they wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
So phenomenal that they actually wrote that in. I that really is great. And if this show was made today, that stuff would happen all the time. But
yeah,
back then where it was very episodic, we didn't ever really get the sense that any of the episodes were interconnected.
Yeah.
But very cool. So Kirk remembers the mind meld and asks Spock about how his telepathic mind or what his telepathic mind is telling him. So Spock's first instinct wasn't to mind meld; it was Kirk insisting on it that made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we are getting a mind meld. But just like a lie detector, the mind meld is not admissible in court.
Yeah, which I for me, this is really sort of a breaking point in the episode from a storytelling standpoint, because Spock is so established as a character who it's not that Vulcans can't tell a lie, but you'd really think that Spock's word is unimpeachable.
You would think.
Especially a Spock who isn't acting out of the norm.
True, but we find out a little bit later that at least Scotty is willing to go along with what Spock is saying because of the virtue that it's Spock.
Yeah. I mean, you can make an argument that sort of Lester, as Kirk makes, saying that, Spock has a reason to do this because he's next in command. And I
love that move.
Well, yeah, but I almost feel that this red shirt was such a dunce, except for the moment when he was about to get nerve pinched.
Well, I think Spock did that on purpose to do that other move and hit him with the other hand.
You think?
I think so, because the way he did it so casually, like he could have just walked past him,
he didn't
and turned around and did it.
Chance.
No, yeah, I think that was just for stylistic purposes. I love how he just he gets the other red shirt too. I love it.
Yeah,
just so casually.
Yeah, and here's just another amazing Spock moment.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is really, there's so many great Spock moments here, and this is, I almost want to say, without really thinking back too much, that this is the most Spock-like we've seen Nimoy the entire third season.
I may be inclined to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've said it several times that Spock has really been off, but this really does feel like the season 2 Spock to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's really some definitive stuff going on here, character-wise. I mean, it really is, top 10 list type moments.
Yeah. So we're learning something new here as well. That when you commit an offense or a crime on Enterprise, your charges and your trial information are broadcast ship-wide before you're even locked up, while you're still standing there. And due process is really quick in the future.
Yeah. And so here's that captain's log.
Yeah.
That basically completely...
Yeah, this is also referenced in Mark Cushman's book as to a questionable part of the script where why would Janice Lester in Kirk's body confess, recording in a captain's log recording, which is listened to by Starfleet.
Yeah.
Exactly what was going on, but
too funny.
And it's funny because we've heard captain's logs be used in court-martial proceedings before, so couldn't they roll back the logs to see if he was recording anything funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is a pretty cool court martial. But I want to know who's running the ship right now. All the entire bridge crew
Oh
is
yeah,
here.
wow.
Sulu and Chekhov are hanging out there.
Yeah, I don't even know where the chain of command falls from there.
Yeah, and Scotty's not in engineering once again. He's actually a lawyer doing some questioning. Oh, this is funny. So this is another great sequence for Shatner, I think.
Yeah.
There's some fantastic acting in this scene. I love the smugness, the air of smugness on his face, and the way he speaks in this, almost as if he's above it all, and he's just kind of going through this sarcastically, and he's not taking it really seriously because he feels, or she feels, that she's the captain and they can't do anything to usurp her authority. So she's just kind of jokingly going through this motion of this proceeding without actually taking any of the questioning or threats against her seriously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got the clean bill of health from McCoy to back her up. So as far as she's concerned, untouchable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how the chief engineer can also double as a lawyer.
Yes.
Oh man!
Yeah, I mean, this episode here really, if nothing else, it makes me feel like Scotty got sort of shortchanged over the course of this series.
You think?
In terms of what we could have seen from him, in terms of the amount of involvement we could have had with Scotty, it seems like there was untapped potential there. I mean, I know we had the Trinity. But it almost feels like you could have strengthened Scotty to make him, almost an equal with the Trinity.
You don't think they could have done that with Sulu and Uhura and Chekhov as well, or just
No, I think I think that's a great point. I think overall that this series could be looked at as a series of missed opportunities for certain characters, and you already we've alluded to it many times in the past, but you even alluded to it tonight, in terms of how the show would be if it was done today. And I'd imagine we'd have entire arcs devoted to single character.
no, without a doubt, without a doubt. But then again, that's something that I've lamented about the Next Generation for me, and I always felt that there were too many characters in Next Gen, and that it didn't really have the same feel as the original series because everybody seemed to get a lot more screen time and focus, and instead of just having the captain and the doctor and the science officer being the forefront and the other characters filling in, but I mean two different styles, but not to say that the Next Gen is bad. I just never felt the draw that I have for the original series, and I think it was because of the focus on Kirk, Spock, and McCoy that made it as good as it was. But like I said, if you watch the JJ movies, the last two movies, everybody gets their hero moments now.
Yes.
So and it's not a bad thing.
No.
But it doesn't have the same gravity to me. When you're spreading it all around too much.
Yeah, there's some great facial work by Shatner.
Oh, absolutely.
That really sell who he is or who he isn't.
Yeah, it gives me flashbacks of Evil Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was split into two. But I think that Janice Lester, Sandra, is more Kirk-like during these court proceedings than earlier in the episode.
I would agree, and maybe you could chalk that up to, like you did, being disoriented or, yeah.
Yeah, and there's that line about the hatred of her own womanhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you picked up on earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely given the check mark here during these court proceedings. At least they gave her a nice dress to wear.
Yes.
And where did she raid Uhura's closet?
Mm-hmm. And here, and here is Spock saying, hey, is it really that far-fetched that this
Yeah.
could have happened?
This is something that I've been waiting for somebody in Trek to say, and too bad it came down to the final episode. Like, we've seen so many things in our travels. Why is this so far-fetched?
Yeah.
Why is this so crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not many episodes ago, you transferred an alien being from an orb into your body and put yourself into the orb. How's this any different?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't know. That's this is not something that should be a big head scratcher for them. This is almost elementary.
Yeah.
They just saw Living Rock and Abraham Lincoln a couple days ago. So, I mean, this doesn't sound like it should be out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. But I love the fact that they cut to reaction shots from everybody when Lester as Kirk had this freak out, and you start to see the doubt in Sulu and Chekhov's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it's a really well executed scene.
Oh, absolutely. And this episode for me is full of these great moments, these great acting moments, character moments. And here's some of your reaction shots here.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are really, really good. And this whole breakdown, this mental breakdown, and you can see it on Shatner's face right there. The pursed lips, trying really hard, and we're gonna get the fist pounding. I love it. This is excellent, excellent, excellent. And this to me kind of, if people who always rag on Shatner for hammy acting, watched what he was capable of in this episode, maybe it would change some people's minds, because this is spectacular to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just laziness and people only seeing the highlight reel, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
of Shatner's quote unquote bad acting.
Yeah, I mean this sequence, just this one little bit right here where he's going off,
mm-hmm.
and this is just exceptional. In fact, I feel bad because it's muted right now. I would love to listen to it again.
Yeah. So while we talk about this scene and how it was constructed, I guess we should mention director Herb Wallerstein,
Sure.
who actually we've seen before. They already mentioned the Tholian Web in this episode, and he was actually also director for That Which Survives and Whom Gods Destroy. So he has the distinction of being the director for the last episode of the series.
And Kirk exits into a wall. So I think there was a little bit of a disagreement between Shatner and Wallerstein about that particular exit, because they'd already established the fact that there was a wall there in that room, and he wanted to exit that way for dramatic purposes. So
yeah, if you think about it, for him to cross back,
it wouldn't look right. No.
Yeah. I mean, that is definitely. It also, that's really cool. It gives you a really clear idea of what actors bring,
Mm-hmm.
Aside from just a body that is there to say lines.
Exactly. So I mean, well, after all the episodes of this that they've filmed, I mean, Kirk. And I think from what I remember reading, Shatner was set up to direct one of the last couple of episodes that had gotten cut. So he already had a really good idea of how to put a Trek episode together, having been in so many, been the focal point of so many. It's it's a shame that it never happened.
Yeah.
But that's just a nice little nod to his vision of what that scene should have, the ending of that scene should have been. And thinking about it with him walking across in front of Spock to exit just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. So now we have an indication or a revelation that there are no private conversations in public spaces on the Enterprise.
No, I guess they're standing a little too close to that little communications port over Scotty's shoulder there.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's something that's standard procedure while these proceedings are going on. Maybe they record the hallways outside for when people walk out and have sidebar conversations, or adjacent rooms to the proceedings.
Yeah, but if that's the case, wouldn't Scotty and McCoy be aware of that?
Perhaps. That's a good question. That's a good point. Good counterpoint. So Scotty suggests mutiny.
Yeah.
Which is great. And, this is the thing, though, is that McCoy doesn't ever agree to it. He just kind of, he doesn't say he's going to do it or not, but just because he was involved in the conversation, he's guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why McCoy was tight-lipped, because he knows they were being recorded.
Yeah, he should have given Scotty the nod.
Yeah.
Scotty, give him the the hand across the neck, like, come on, dude, cut it. So, and this is not the first time we've heard somebody's dialogue played in a courtroom scene to cook their goose.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a shame. So, but this is actually where the jig is really up. I think this is what drives the point home that this is not Captain Kirk.
Yeah, gonna charge them with mutiny and sentence them to death. Which...
Yeah. And yeah, and I love how Sulu stands up to him immediately.
Yeah.
And death penalty is forbidden. And do we remember what the one exception to the death penalty rule is?
Yeah, it's really silly. Going to the planet that the cage took place on.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But that was actually, I believe it was called General Order 7 back then, and they just said General Order 4.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit different, but that is the death penalty. The only thing that will get you the death penalty in Star Trek times is approaching that planet. So just don't go there. Never mind all the bad crap that happened on all the other planets they've been to. You can go to those. Feel free to stop by the short-leaf planet anytime you want. Go visit the rock creatures that bring back Abraham Lincoln. Maybe they'll bring back some people for you. But I love this little sidebar conversation between Sulu and Chekhov, where Sulu really gets a chance to actually flex some acting muscles here, and actually goes out to state that he will fight it every way he can.
Yeah.
If these executions actually happen. So I love that. It's fantastic. And I really wish there were more little moments like that to build Sulu's character throughout the entire show, because I think you learn more about Sulu as a person in those 15 seconds than you've learned about in the entire series.
Yeah.
So huge moment for Sulu there. And we are going to get, in a moment, one of the one of the most famous still frame shots. It's all over the internet. It's so many memes. Not yet. That was close. We're getting it. Here we go. It's going to show up any second now. And yep. As soon as Kirk's up, there it is. Boom. Yeah. That's the shot right there.
Now did Spock initiate this, or was Spock just handling her when she fell back into him?
I don't know. It's not exactly clear. Because I originally assumed that Spock was attempting like a second mind meld.
Yeah.
In an attempt to maybe probe her brain to see if it was possible to reverse the transference. But I guess whatever this transference is, we're meant to believe that it's not always 100% stable. It can reverse itself without the use of the machine.
Yeah, and I actually would have liked a handful more of moments prior to the last 5 minutes of the episode where we got an indication that there was, I guess it would have killed some of the suspense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would have sold things for me a little better.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, it would have made a lot more sense to me if they actually ended the episode with going back down to the planet and reversing it. Because, if you need a machine to do it in the first place, why do you not need a machine to undo it?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem... What is the transmission medium? Just thin air?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to let it go back without using the machines. Is that a dead tribble in the machine behind, or is that like a bunt cake?
I think it's a bunt cake.
Or actually, it kind of looks like it could be an apple pie.
Yeah. Or now I'm starving. Thanks.
Yeah, Jeff. It's over Dr. Coleman's shoulder there. But sorry, everybody, if you're hungry.
Here's more excellent facial William Shatner stuff going on here.
Oh, phenomenal.
Prior to this, now he's manipulating, but prior to that, you sort of saw the frantic, weak, unsure Lester. And I really, really loved it.
Yeah, this is it's fantastic. So the manipulator, even up till the end, and I love that there just happens to be a phaser down there.
Yeah.
He happens to have a phaser and a lethal hypodermic needle right there. Both things are ready to go. So, you can get a better look at what that is. It actually doesn't. That actually doesn't look appetizing at all, does it? Yeah, I don't know what that is. That it doesn't look like an apple pie anymore.
It'd be like a mud pie.
Yeah, well, it looks like something else too. But
This
is a family show. It's a family show. So now they're going to separate them into different cells to stop any more conspiring. And I love the fact that we've seen another use of the force field. We don't see the force field that often.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we don't see a lot of inside ships in Trek. It's usually just on the outside of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a very interesting struggle, and I really don't know why Lester in Kirk's body didn't just stun. It is. I understand the fact that she doesn't want to kill Kirk.
Yeah.
But she could totally stun Kirk in Lester's body and allow Coleman to jab the hypo in. But
did you get a Superman 2
yes,
sort of vibe from that?
I absolutely did.
When Superman gives up his powers.
I absolutely did. And that's it.
Yeah.
And it is reversed. And it's funny that it didn't take much to reverse.
No.
I guess once it started to break down, that was pretty much it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I found it very interesting. The only way to prevent transferring back is to kill the other person.
Really? Yeah.
I don't know. I have so many problems with that from a technological standpoint. I don't get how that would stop the transferred spirit from just leaving the body, period, with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Like, how does it know it's going back to I don't know, without the technology to move it from one place to another. But we've been down that road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've been down that road. So, Coleman, this is another thing that really bugs me, is why did they let Coleman off the hook?
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, the jig is up. She's back in a regular body. Even though Coleman was just attempting to kill Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
We're just going to kind of let them go. Even though both of them have either said they wanted to kill Kirk or attempted to kill Kirk.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that the last moments here aren't Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Nope.
It's Kirk, Spock, and Scotty.
Yep. And the last thing you see is them going into a turbo lift.
Yeah.
And that's it. Series done.
Wow.
Yeah. Here we are at the end of the road. Well, it's been almost 2 years.
I know.
Since we started. So it's getting there.
Yeah, yeah.
So pretty cool. So I guess our final essential voting of the original series must take place.
Yeah, I'm going to just come right out and say that this is incredibly, incredibly essential viewing, in my opinion, just for all of the character work on display. All the Spock moments we get, all the great Spock moments. There might not be anything that sort of defines his character, but they're great moments for his character, and they're welcome moments for a Spock that really felt absent in the third season. As you pointed out, Sulu, in 15 seconds, has more defining character stuff going on than the entire series. And then also just for more of Kirk's romantic history being revealed. So yeah, for me, this is essential viewing.
Wow. And I really thought you were going to go the other way on it. Interesting.
I'm glad I was able to disappoint you.
Ah, well, great. So I'm really on the fence at this point. I've confessed, of course, many times that I really love this episode, and I've told everybody why many times. But by my own standards for judging something essential, we've got no no new alien races, no recurring new characters that pop back up. And, the character moments are definitely there. It's Kirk's past loves, but I mean, I've never really used them necessarily as essential fodder without other supporting factors. But this is a tough one for me, and seeing that you voted essential, it's kind of pushing me, and I'm 50-50 at this point. So, does your essential vote give me that 1% to tip me over? I don't know. What do you think?
You could always change your mind come the season 3 wrap up.
No, that's true. That's true. I could. Now, do I go with a non-essential and change it, or do I go with an essential and then change it?
I say, just think of Sulu and that wonderful whole lengthy Sulu speech you gave a couple minutes ago. For me, that should make this essential viewing for you.
Well, you know what? All right, you convinced me. So we'll do a double essential for the final episode of Trek. And if anybody out there has some arguments against it, please post them on the Facebook page at facebook.com/the Tricorder Transmissions, and we will mull over any of the responses we get and revisit this in the second half of our season 3 wrap-up episode. So, Craig Cohen, any final thoughts on our final commentary of the original series?
No, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful journey, and I've had such a great time talking Trek with you, and also interacting and seeing how our listeners feel. This has really been a shared journey we've been on, and as you stated in the beginning of the episode, it's something. It's something that I'm really proud of. It's a great accomplishment, and it really feels like it sort of snuck up on us, but it's here, and I think we should be really proud of the 79 episodes we put in, not even counting the supplemental stuff that we did. So please forgive me for a little bit of back patting right now.
No, I think we deserve some back patting at this point. So, major milestone for the Tricorder Transmissions. Finally wrapping up the 3rd season, and it's been a long time, but it hasn't felt like a long time. Looking
True.
back on when we started this over in your condo in the living room, recording those first few episodes, and I remember very distinctly it was the middle of the summer, and we had to turn the air conditioner off because it was so loud. It kept showing up on the recording.
Yes.
And we'd be sweating, so we'd have to break between episodes and turn the air back on and stand in front of it for a little while. But good memories, and that it doesn't feel like that long ago, even though it was quite a long time ago. And
yeah, very true.
So many things have happened and changed between then and now. We've made so many great friends through this show.
Goodness, yeah.
All of our Vegas friends and going out to the con and meeting up with some listeners out there. I mean, really, really fantastic. And I don't know what more we could possibly ask out of the show than what we've already gotten out of it.
Yeah. And in addition to the season 3 wrap up we'll be doing, I think we've talked about, we'll probably end up doing a series wrap up as well for the original series to put those 3 seasons to bed, if you will. And I think we'll have a really good opportunity to expound on what the show has meant to us over the course of its run.
Absolutely.
So again, we're going to be off next week.
Yep.
And then we'll be back with the start of our season 3 look back, which are always really great episodes for me. I think about the season 1 wrap ups we did and the season 2 wrap ups, and I think it's a really cool way to look back and really reassess what we saw and really give our final thoughts on the season.
Oh yeah, they are a hell of a lot of fun, and I enjoy them just as much as you do. So, looking forward to getting some of our guests back for these wrap-up episodes. So, look for some of our repeat visitors to come back and talk to us. I think Chris Ritzer is definitely on board.
Oh yeah, so I can't wait.
Have him back on, and those are always really fun conversations. So, to close up, everybody stay tuned at the end of this. I've got a Yeah, I'm really glad that Craig highlighted Scotty there a bit because I've got a really nice few minutes with James Doohan about the ending of the original series, and some nice thoughts from him from one of the Star Trek VHS releases from years and years ago. It was a little bit of an interview with him about it. So stay tuned for that after we wrap up, and we will see you guys on social media and in a couple weeks for the first installment of our season 3 wrap.
Excellent.
Our final episode, Turnabout Intruder, was scripted by our story consultant, Arthur Singer, from an existing story by Gene Roddenberry. In the show, Kirk's mind is switched into the body of a jealous former lover. As the episode progresses, Bill Shatner's acting became more and more frenzied. When you watch the show, the perspiration on his brow is real, not just good makeup. Poor Bill was sweating his way through a fever. We finished production on the 9th of January, 1969. Turnabout Intruder was first screened on June 3rd, 1969. Star Trek's third season is different in style from the preceding two, and it is often said that we floundered throughout our third year. Despite this, the season remained true to our guiding principles of commenting upon social issues, and we produced some of our best explorations of racism and civil rights. Regardless of our efforts, however, the ratings for this season were dreadful, and we were doomed. When Star Trek disappeared from the networks and found its way to cable television, the climate changed. Over the course of several years, popularity in our show began to rise. Was it that we were before our time? Was it that NBC simply did not give us the exposure we needed? In reality, it was probably a little of both. As Star Trek gained popular support, so our fans demanded more. Finally, in 1973, our whole cast gathered together again to supply the voices for 22 episodes of an animated series of the show, which ran for 2 years. We very nearly made a brand new series known as Star Trek Phase 2 in the mid-70s, but were halted a week before production began. Paramount decided that instead of a new series, they wanted a motion picture. We made 6 in total, and Walter, Bill, and myself even got to guest star in the first Star Trek The Next Generation movie to send our second incarnation on their way. The fact that Star Trek is the phenomenon it is today is thanks to the dedication of you, the fans. It is your continued support which has kept our show alive. To you, we dedicate these releases. May you all live long and prosper and help to bring about the Star Trek vision of a totally equal society.